So, something you never really hear mentioned. This is relative domain size. I have a, again, this is mainly just through looking around online. I get the impression that for kind of moderately competitive keywords, a generalization, and this is quite a generalization, but a generalization is the bigger sites will rank for it. Now, you know, you can take that in many different ways, but the thing I'm trying to suggest to you is that you shouldn't think, I've built 30 pages, I should stop. I'm convinced that the size of the domain, the total, I don't know, the weight of it, for want of a better description, does have some bearing on this, and so bigger domains just do better. Of course, there's also added elements that bigger domains have more words and more pictures and more URLs and more keywords, so they should do better. But I think it's one of the elements. In terms of Google's job, their job is to somehow process documents, to find and categorize and sort documents, and to deliver results in an amazingly quick time. And it would seem quite reasonable if you were trying to make a search algorithm as elegantly as you could, that you could take a few characteristics like the number of pages, the age, the total number of words, and maybe 2 or 3 other things, and make very broad generalizations that would work quite well. I don't know that they do, but I'm just putting that out there. So, things that are very important. The way that we operate with Site Builder means that we hit number 1 almost every time, but the vast majority of webmasters, and from what I can see, the vast majority of SEO consultants don't do this. You need to pick your one keyword for the page. Now, I'm not going to go into a discussion here about secondary or third keywords, but you've got a target keyword for a page, and you need to make many other factors 100% totally relevant to that. Not sort of similar, but that. If you're going to have a chance for competitive keywords, all of your factors have to be singing from the same hymn sheet. There we go. I ought to have some sort of bingo game so you can cross off funny terms that I use. So, RSS. I think RSS is very important. The way that you syndicate your site is just tremendously important. Now, the reason that I have an understanding of RSS is partly because the blogosphere uses it a lot, and I needed to learn how to make it work more in the blogosphere, but partly because I could just see it as an interesting means of syndication. Now, there are some, it might be that when you're thinking about RSS, in your mind you're thinking about an RSS reader and how I get the content so that it's delivered to me each day, and that's a part of RSS. But another part of RSS is your site notifying all the major search engines and lots of different aggregators that you've got new content on there. I mentioned earlier on your Blogit page, and actually that is what it does. Now, for various reasons, and I understand what they are, Site Builder doesn't say we syndicate to these different services. And I can understand not, because you're kind of getting into the realms of strange, sad, math, geeky territory, which people like me live in, and you wouldn't, as a normal webmaster, need to be there yourself. But I would suggest that the more time you spend understanding how you could leverage RSS to help your site be better known, that'd be time very well spent. To give you a bit of an example, in the platform that I used to run, I had what I used to call my big ping list. And I'd found about half of it online, and I played about with it and managed to add another number of services. Essentially, lots of bloggers want to syndicate their content elsewhere, so they use RSS to put it on different platforms and different subdomains. So we would have a number of people that did that with us. What did I do? I used my ping list to essentially ensure that the rest of the web viewed my content as the original. Essentially, they were very good at writing. Well, I wasn't doing any of the writing. I was there to run the platform. But because the RSS works almost immediately, the timestamp would be the same year, the same day, and actually within about 2 minutes of the same time. It's just that I would tell all the search engines that the content was there several days, if not weeks, before they found it themselves by linking. So to all intents and purposes, the content was original on my platform and not on their own domain. I know, that's very sneaky, and I make no apologies for it, but nonetheless, it's surprising how important RSS is. Don't overlook it, that's what I would say. We discussed outbound linking previously, and I would suggest that outbound linking can help you to target your traffic geographically if you want to. I think we discussed with discussing something I'd found with a magazine in South Africa, Noseweek, and I started getting searches from South Africa specifically for South African keywords once I put that link in a paragraph up. It's surprising how that works. And then these other bits, well, we've been discussing them in other presentations. Internal linking, very, very important. One of the reasons that I say that sitemaps probably aren't that important is because Google effectively is a spidering machine. They spider very effectively and very efficiently billions of pages every day. That's what they do to make the search engine work. If you build the right kinds of numbers of internal links, they can go and they know better what's on your page than the sitemap does. They'll know better what's on your site than you do, that's for sure. So you shouldn't worry too much. As long as you're building a good number of internal links, you will find Google knows. And anchor text, we've discussed that a lot. Also, very, very important. So, things for the future. Unless you've been, let's presume that you're in the internet world, as we all are, I would suggest that unless you've been living under a rock for the last year, you probably know that Google's algorithm is coming under threat. Now, there have been a couple of challenges made at Italy, France, the European Commission, and a couple of states in America. There have been challenges and complaints made about Google's algorithm not being fair, not being transparent. It's a long conversation. I'm not going to try and go into it. The issue, though, is that potentially it does bring what we do under some threat. Now, the reason being is that the job of regulators is to regulate, and the job of legislators is to write new laws. Now, whether the regulators and the legislators understand what we do and what Google does, there's no guarantee of that. Now, if you're in a situation where your site is getting, let's say, 500 visitors a day, I would suggest that you probably just keep doing the things we're talking about and you just keep plodding away, because there's no guarantee that anything will change. There are moves afoot to make changes, but there's no guarantee that anything will. However, if you're one of the people in the room that already has 4,000 visitors a day and you're not sure what to do, well, it would seem reasonable right now that some sort of traffic diversification might be in order. So virtual products, some sort of viral report, thinking about email list building, maybe doing some link exchanges specifically to build traffic rather than to build links. That might be time very well spent. The reason I'm saying this is that if it turns out in 2 or 3 years down the line that something does happen to the Google algorithm and traffic does drop significantly because of who knows what criteria, you'd probably be quite happy if you'd made a change and put 3 viral reports up now rather than doing it then. Having 15,000 of them out in the world would be quite helpful if that happened. There's no guarantee it will, and I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to gently make you aware that there are legal issues around the algorithms and the way that search engines work right now. And since that's our business, you probably should have it in your mind in case of emergency. And so lastly, this is the only recommended reading I'm going to offer. This is a blog from, I think he's on the East Coast in, the West Coast in California. And it's very interesting. He's an SEOer by profession, but actually he spends most of his time trying to understand what's going on in Google by checking and reading and following the patents that Google submits to the US Patent Office relative to their search technology. Now, most blogs or most sites you see that relate to SEO, there's at least 50% of it that's opinion based on not very much. This guy's trying to base his opinion on their legal protections, and that seems a very good place to start. It's very well written, it's very smart. I recommend you go and have a read. It can be very, very interesting. And otherwise, that's it. I thank you very much.